Hi everybody, Paul Cameron here from speedupmyjobsearch.com with some job search tactics and motivation for today. Now when you're interviewing, obviously it's essential to be able to communicate how your skills and experience can fulfill their need for the employer's position, but it's also essential that you find out if the job that they have will fulfill your needs for your career. So you need to be able to interview them just as much as they're interviewing you. But you've got to be careful about how you do this so you don't come across as judgmental or that you'll only be interested in them if they meet a certain set of conditions. I mean, maybe that's true, but if they feel that, they're going to lean towards the other candidates who appear to show more interest in the position and show interest unconditionally. So essentially, you need to be able to interview them without them knowing about it. And today I'm going to show you how you can do that. If this video is helpful for you, I would invite you to please click that like button so more people in your network can find it, and I really appreciate your help with that. And if you want even more help with your interviews, check out the playlist of interview strategies that I've put together on my YouTube channel. You're going to get lots of great ideas there. Now, it's important to understand that the way you ask a question gives the person you're asking information about you and your motives. So I'm just going to go through a few questions here that you're likely going to want the answers to and how most people that I see ask those questions. And then I'm going to show you how to get the same information by asking it in a different way. And at the same time, create a very positive impression on the employer. And after we do this just a few times, you're going to be able to do this for all the questions that you have for employers. Now, one of the questions I hear a lot of people ask is, if I'm hired, what are you expecting me to have accomplished over my first 6 months? And the goal behind this question is pretty obvious. You know, they want to know what they'll have to work on over the first 6 months. But think about the context of that question. You know, what are you expecting me to have accomplished? And I'll tell you, if I hired someone to do some work for me, like the neighbor kid, for example, to work on my yard, and he said to me, Mr. Cameron, what are you expecting me to have done by the end of the day? What is he asking? He wants to know, what is the bare minimum I have to have done by the time you get home so I don't get in trouble, right? Well, when you ask what they're expecting you to have accomplished over the first 6 months, you're essentially saying, what is the bare minimum I have to do in my first 6 months so that I don't get fired, right? That's the feeling of your question. Whereas if you were to ask them, what will I have the opportunity to accomplish for you over my first 6 months? That's going to give you the same information, but it's also going to say that you're the type of person who looks for opportunities to help and that you're going to be a very productive and proactive employee for them. Right? You're going to get the same information, but you're going to create a completely different impression. How about this one? Right, and if you've been reading any of the books out there on how to interview or watching a lot of the other YouTube channels here on interview strategies, one of the most common questions I'm sure that you've seen them recommend you ask at the beginning of your interview is, what skills are you looking for in this job? And the premise behind this actually makes a lot of sense because you want to find out what skills are required for the role, and it helps you to be focused on which elements of your own experience you should be focused on during your interview. But the problem is, if you just ask them, what skills are you looking for in this job, you're going to come across as completely unprepared for the interview, right? To me, this is the difference between actually thinking about asking these questions in real life interviews and just coming up with a bunch of theories about how to interview well so you can sell your book or get more followers online, right? I mean, think about this from the employer's perspective. If you don't know what skills I'm looking for, why did you apply? What are you even doing here? Right? And that's not the perception that you're trying to create with that question. But if you were to ask for their opinion of what skills are needed, that changes the feel of the question entirely. Right? Everybody at the company is going to probably want something different from this particular person in this role. You know, HR is going to want one thing from you, but development hopes that you're going to help them in a different way, and another department is going to want something else from you. So instead, try asking it this way. You know, I know a little bit about the position based on what I saw in the job description or what my recruiters told me or however you found out about the role, but I'm curious to find out what you would be looking for from the ideal person in this role. Right? When you ask it that way, it justifies the question. It makes sense to ask this of everyone you meet with throughout the interview, so you can ask it each time you meet with a new person. So focus on their opinion and not just on the skills. Now lastly, a very common question that people want to know is why the position is open, and they'll ask it pretty directly, you know, just like that. So, you know, why is the position open? But to put that into context for you and how that feels to the employer, could you imagine walking up to a person who is single and asking, so why are you single? Wow, right? I mean, what are the answers to that? It's like, well, I can't get a date, and the last person, they left me, and all the answers are going to be very, very negative, right? And they're going to make the person feel bad about themselves. And it's the same thing with this question, so why is this open, right? It's going to give them the wrong impression. It's like, well, the last person left because it sets them up to justify why the last person isn't there anymore and to badmouth that person. And that's not helpful for anybody. Instead, just ask them what's happening at the company that's giving you a chance to be there. Was someone promoted out of this position, or what's giving me the opportunity to interview for this role? Right? And when you say it that way, you're going to get the same information, but you're also going to set them up to say something positive about that last person in the role, or something positive about the things that are going on at the company. And that's what you want. Right? And you can use this technique for just about any question you want to ask. So write down all of your questions and then come up with a positive way to ask those questions that will also tell the employer that you're a proactive, positive person who's always looking for ways to help. Please try this. It will help you. Again, I'm Paul Cameron. I'm from speedupmyjobsearch.com. Please subscribe to our free YouTube channel here and get all of our videos as soon as they come out. Or go to drivestaff.com/motivate, and you can sign up to have all these videos emailed to you regularly. And remember, it's okay to interview the employer. And when you're intentional about the wording of your questions, you'll not only get the information that you want, but you're going to stand out as the proactive person they're going to want for that job, and they won't even know that you're interviewing them. You can do this. Now, it's time to get to work.